Some equations have degrees that are greater than 2, meaning they're more than just a quadratic. These equations can be solved using various factoring methods. These methods include but are not limited to greatest common factor, special binomials, difference of squares, difference of cubes, sum of cubes, trinomials, and factor by grouping. So let's solve each equation. First, we have x to the fourth equals 4x squared. So we need to solve this by getting the entire equation equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 4x squared from both sides. And when I do that, I'm going to get x to the fourth minus 4x squared equals 0. And from here, I'm going to try and solve. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this and I see that I have a GCF of x squared. So I'm going to take an x squared out, and I'm left with x squared minus 4 equals 0. So remember, if you have two things that are multiplying, we can separate them both and set each one individually equal to 0. So I'm going to set the x squared equal to 0, and I'm going to set the x squared minus 4 equal to 0. And now I'm going to solve both of them. So here, take the square root of both sides, and I'm going to get x equals 0. So there's one solution. And then I'm going to add 4 over. So I'm going to get x squared equals 4. Then take the square root of both sides. And I'm going to end up with x equals plus or minus 2. Remember, when you take the square root, you need plus or minus. I didn't do a plus or minus on 0 because a positive or a negative 0 is still just 0. Whereas this is a positive 2 and a negative 2. So for this equation, I actually have three solutions: 0, positive, and negative 2, or just plus minus 2. Next, I have x cubed plus x squared minus 20x equals 0. So again, I look at this and I see a GCF, and I'm going to factor that out. And that GCF being x. So x equals, x times a quantity, x squared plus x minus 20 equals 0. And now I'm going to factor this trinomial in here. And when I do that, I will get two parentheses with x's in the front. And what times what equals negative 20, but as to give me positive 1? That is positive 5 and negative 4. And just like before, I'm going to set each one individually equal to 0. So first off, set x equal to 0. X plus 5 equal to 0. And then x minus 4 equal to 0. And solve. Now, first one's easy. X equals 0. Already done for me. Next, I'm going to subtract the 5 over, and I'm going to get x equals negative 5. So there's another answer. And then here I'm going to add 4 over. I'm going to get x equals positive 4. And there's my third answer. So again, I have three answers: 0, negative 5, and positive 4. Last, I have 3x cubed plus 4x squared equals 27x plus 36. Just like with the first one, I got to set the whole thing equal to 0, so I'm going to subtract the 27x and the 36 over. So I'm going to get 3x cubed plus 4x squared minus 27x minus 36 equals 0. And since I have 4 terms here and no GCF, my mind immediately thinks factor by grouping. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to group the first 2 terms together, and I'm going to group the last 2 terms together. Now, each one of these terms is a negative by default, so I'm going to actually factor out a negative right from the beginning, So this negative 27 is going to turn into a positive 27, and this negative 36 is going to turn into a positive 36. And now I'm going to do the GCF of the first group, which is going to be x squared. And that'll leave me 3x plus 4 on the inside. Then over here, I factor out the GCF, which is going to be 9. So minus 9, 3x plus 4 again, which if you've forgotten, you should remember that for factor by grouping, the first parentheses and the second parentheses should match completely. If they're not, most likely the error is going to be in the second parentheses. But we have no error here, so now I can factor out a 3x plus 4 from both terms, and I'm going to get 3x plus 4 times x squared minus 9 equals 0. And again, I'm going to set each parentheses individually equal to 0. So 3x plus 4 equals 0, and x squared minus 9 equals 0. Subtract the 4, divide by 3, going to get x equals negative 4/3. Again, subtract by 4, divide by 3. So one answer. And then here, add 9 over, x squared equals 9. Square root both sides. I'm going to get x equals, and again, because I took the square root, plus or minus, and then the square root of 9 is 3. So my solutions for this equation are going to be negative 4/3, positive 3, and negative 3.